Chapter 10. "Would you like a choc bar?" Harry's mother said when he came home from school that afternoon. "Oh, yes, please, Mum. There's one in the fridge." Harry fetched it. "Mad would like a bit," he said. "He loves choc bars. Mad, where are you?" "Sit down a minute, Harry," his mother said. "Just listen while I tell you what's happened. I went out shopping this morning. I wasn't out long, less than an hour. But when I got home, I found we'd had a burglar. One of the sitting room window panes, the one nearest the catch, had been broken from the outside. The bits of glass were on the carpet. Someone had smashed it and reached through and opened the window. It was wide open." "Has he stolen lots of stuff?" "No, he'd obviously been after the silver. The sideboard cupboards were open and my rose bowl was lying on the floor. But that wasn't what he took." "What did he take then?" "Listen to me, Harry. You're going to have to be very grown up about this. It's Madison who's missing." "Oh, no, Mum," said Harry. "Yes. Now listen. First of all, I'm sure he won't have been harmed. Whoever took him wouldn't want to hurt him. Why would they take him then? Parrots are valuable animals, you know. Priceless, I suppose, in Madison's case, if anyone had known how clever he is. But even a parrot that can only say a few words could be worth £200 and £300, the policeman said." "The police came?" "Yes, and interviewed the people across the road who said they'd heard someone yelling for help, which must have been Madison." "You didn't tell them?" "Oh, no. I said it must have been a passer-by who'd seen the break-in." "Does Dad know?" "Yes. He should be here soon. He's coming home early. He's putting advertisements in the papers offering a reward." "Try not to worry, darling. I'm sure we'll find your old Mad. Don't you want that choc bar?" "No," said Harry miserably. That evening was not a happy one. Mr. Holdsworth watched the 6 o'clock news alone. It was, as usual, filled with gloomy items, but his mind was on a gloomier one. Harry's homework was a messy mass of mistakes. Mrs. Holdsworth, laying the table, automatically put out Madison's tray and spoon before she realised what she was doing. And though at supper they all made a pretence of enjoying the transparent pie, anyone could have seen through it. Afterwards, Harry could bear the sight of the empty carrot cage no longer. He said his good nights and went to bed. Never in his life had he felt so wretched. Mad. What, wretched? How is he feeling? Think how he's feeling. Desperate, miserable, upset, all those things. Wretched. Pardon me? No, it doesn't say carrot page. I just keep saying that because it's tricky to say it quickly. Parrot cage. Yeah. "Mad," he said in the darkness. "Where are you?" In point of fact, at that very moment, Madison was halfway up a very dirty chimney. Like all parrots, he was using his beak as well as his feet to climb, and his mouth was full of soot. But he clambered doggedly upward, taking some pleasure in the angry cries of silverware below, and his last desperate fluttering saw him free. Black now as the night around him, Madison perched unsteadily on the rim of one of London's millions of chimney pots. "Mad," he said in the dark. "No, Mad," he said in the darkness. "Where are you?" There followed for Madison Holdsworth, bird of letters, cosmopolitan, bon viveur, self-assured, sophisticated connoisseur of good food and witty conversation, the most unpleasant night by far that he had ever spent since first, as a hideous naked nestling, he had tottered from the ruins of his egg. As if to be lost, hungry and filthy were not hardship enough, the puckish gods of the weather now saw fit to play their part in cutting the handsomest, most intelligent parrot in the world, bar none, down to size. First came the wind from somewhere like Siberia, which is a very, very cold place, threatening every moment to tear from him his uneasy hold. Then, before long, it began to pour with rain, which soaked his plumage and mingled with the soot that clogged it to tar and feather him into a pitch-dark, sticky mess. Chilled to the bone, black as any crow, and now flightless as a pigeon, Madison fell helplessly from his perch, off the chimney stack, down the slippery slope of the tiled roof, and over the edge to the street below. His plumage is his feathers, and they're all sort of stuck together with a sooty, wet, sooty. Yeah, good connecting two bits of information. Yeah, well done. Yes, like an oil spill. Shocked, shaken, and shivering. Somehow he managed to crawl from the road into the shelter of a doorway, out of the wind and rain. There, awaiting the refuse collectors, was a stack of rubbish, composed mainly of cardboard boxes, and into one of these Madison crept with the last of his strength. "Guess I'm done for," he murmured feebly. "Goodbye, Harry boy. George, here I come." And he closed his eyes, and his head dropped down on his breast. Indeed, as the days passed and turned into weeks, he found that thank you, with or without a yes, I think I've read that, haven't I? Never mind. Or a no, served to answer most of the questions that the big bald-headed man asked him. Otherwise, he kept silent. It was a strain, a severe strain, upon such a natural conversationalist, but he was resolute, set upon 3 objectives: to regain his health and strength, to fly this nest, and then to find a telephone, Claude hadn't one, and contact Harry. So much as he would have loved to have a chat with his kind host, he resisted the temptation. Once he was nearly caught out. From behind the evening paper which he was reading, Claude had suddenly quietly said, "Madison." Despite himself, Madison half opened his beak to reply, then quickly closed it again. Claude peered over the paper. "Thought you might be called Madison," he said. "No, thank you," said Madison, crossing his toes. "There's an ad here," said Claude. "Oldsworth, lost. African grey parrot, name of Madison. Handsome reward, then a box number. I'm glad it's not you. Sure as my name's Claude Clutterbuck." But when a month had gone by, Madison decided the time had come to leave. He made his decision with great regret. Not only had the man saved his life and nursed him back to fitness, for which he would be eternally grateful, but he had grown fond of him. Clutterbuck, it occurred to him, might well derive from Clatterbeak, he thought, a thought that he found pleasing. "You're a swell guy," he thought, "and I wish there was some way I could repay you for all your kindness. One thing's sure, I'm going to make certain that you get that handsome reward. But home I gotta go." For some time, while Claude was out driving his dust cart, Madison had been in secret training. He had no idea where he was and how far he might be required to fly, so he practised hard, round and round the kitchen, 20, 50, 100 circuits a day. Now he waited for the right weather conditions, listening carefully to the forecasts on Claude's radio for the combination he wanted. And one evening it came. In the London area, said the weatherman, the following day would be unusually mild for the time of year, windless and dry. All that Madison now needed was that Claude, when he finished his rounds in the late morning, should act as he usually acted. The back door of his house led directly into the kitchen from the little yard outside, where Claude kept a number of animals that he had adopted, old rabbits that children had tired of, and ancient hens who had long forgotten how to lay an egg, and where he stored his coal in a bunker. At each homecoming he would fill 2 battered buckets with coal for the kitchen fire, and once he had opened the back door, the act of coming through it with both hands full meant that it stood open for a few seconds, long enough for escape. "I sure feel a dirty heel," muttered Madison as he waited tensely, listening for Claude's return, "but it's got to be done." And done it was, the moment those coal buckets were put down on the kitchen floor, As Claude bent, Madison took off, skimming over the bald head and out through the door. He circled round and then swooped low for last 2 words. "Thank you!" shouted Madison, and away he flew, higher and higher over the dingy rooftops. "Good heavens," said Claude as he stared up at the sky, at the disappearing figure. "I'll eat my hat!"